We are going to start with our broad analysis. So this is the rubric for that particular assignment. But let's just take a step back and just look at the overall purpose of the assignment. And many times we get very focused on our immediate environment and only focus on what happens there, when in actuality there are many, many factors that influence what happened there. And as a leader, it's very important to understand contextually what is happening on the outside that impacts and will influence what you need to do within your practice. And part of the process is looking at that broad analysis and engaging in that metacognition that's so important as you're considering all those very complex factors that influence practice and what should guide your practice to make sure that your particular organization or facility is functioning at the highest level possible, not only ethically but in the context of regulations and rules and just generally what's going on in the world around us. So that's the context of doing the broad analysis, is really looking at those very integrative and complex factors that influence your practice. So we're going to start out with the big picture. So part of the process is looking at those factors that influence you, your practice, your organization, and those guiding principles of even healthcare in general and nursing in general. So you are going to be looking at your set of resources that are appropriate to your organization when you're doing the broad analysis. And that will vary depending on what your role actually entails or what your organization actually does. So there are resources within the module that will help you to do that. The forums are designed to help you to look bigger and broader and look at other factors that maybe other students have found that are resources that will help to guide your broad analysis process. So just remember that this is a very modified strategic analysis process. Usually this is a very long-term process that entails multiple groups, multiple levels within the organization. So again, this is very modified. So as you're diving in, remember to use your matrix, because this is the first portion of your matrix that you will be completing. So the introduction is the first portion of the matrix itself, and this helps you to provide context to what you need to look at for your particular organization. So you're going to be looking at those foundational principles of your organization, including your service area and maybe some competition, what the vision is, the mission of the organization. So that's where the introduction comes in, because we always must keep that context of what our organization is about when we're looking outside and what influences. So what you're going to really dive into are those factors such as political, economic, environmental, all those factors that influence your organization. So that's what you'll be including in your broad analysis. So those are all things that you need to really look at. You're going to be looking at, based on your findings, what are those predominant opportunities and threats. And those will be very critical as you're moving forward, because those will be the factors that you will be looking at when you ultimately devise your strategic outline. So again, not only are you looking at what goes on out there, but you're analyzing what is going on and looking at those opportunities as far as how you can position your organization and those threats to your organization as well. And sometimes those threats are regulatory, sometimes they're political, sometimes they may be competition, those types of things. So just kind of keep that in mind, and if you have any questions about identifying the opportunities or threats, just let me know and we can talk through that process of analyzing what you're finding. And finally, really taking a step back and reflecting on your findings. What did you learn? What contextually did you understand as far as maybe a shift perspective, moving beyond from your particular role to looking very broad as far as those influences that impact the organization? Did you have any aha moments? So really think about your thinking in this particular section, and how will this influence your practice as you move forward. And that's what it's all about, is really looking at those factors outside. As a leader, you really need to understand those factors and assimilate those factors as your decision making in your leadership role. And of course, if you're using resource materials, you need to cite in APA format. Make sure that your writing is clear and concise, and you may or may not choose to use paragraph forms or simple blurbs, and doing an overview of what your findings are. This is not intended to be a paper format. This is really looking at those factors and analyzing those factors and devising those opportunities and threats. So if you have any questions about getting started with your broad analysis, let me know. Know that there is a guiding document that will help you as well. If you want to print that out and read it as you're completing your broad analysis, feel free to do that. And always use the rubrics as the rubric itself as kind of a checklist to make sure that you touch on all those key points that you need to have in that broad analysis. So I hope you find this to be helpful. If you need anything, let me know. Take care now.